getting back to the causes of the injury, I need to explain to you what was going on in my life leading up to that point. For the previous 18 months to 2 years, in addition to seeing my clients in my practice in London and teaching courses at the Czech Institute, I was also writing a book. As I came closer to completing the book, which I hadn't agreed a contract for, I arranged to meet Paul Czech and his wife Penny in California to show them the book and to discuss the publication of the book and a training course to sit alongside the book. Once the date of this meeting had been set and put in my diary and the flights and accommodation booked, there was no turning back. I had to get the book completed prior to getting on the plane. So alongside coaching my clients, teaching the Czech courses, lifting weights, playing tennis, and attending Bikram yoga classes, I was filling almost every hour I had writing the book. This sometimes meant I'd be sitting down for 16 hours a day in an attempt to get the book completed. As the deadline time got ever nearer, my workouts were being sacrificed to create more time to work on the book. This meant more time seated and less time keeping my body fit and strong. So here is the first of the reasons I believe I injured my discs. The act of sitting places around 40 to 85% more compression on the lumbar discs as opposed to standing. The more slumped you sit, the more compression it puts through the discs. When you sit slumped, it places more pressure on the anterior part of the disc, which pushes the nucleus or the center of the disc posteriorly, which causes the outer part of the disc, known as the annulus fibrosus, to bulge outwards. If this continues over time, the annulus can begin to tear, and the nucleus can start to move in the direction of the tear in the annulus. If this continues over time, the bulge in the annulus can increase in size, potentially entrapping the nerve, which can, but not always, create the symptoms I was experiencing. If this continues further, the nucleus can eventually escape the annulus, causing an immune response, inflammation, and often greater symptoms of pain and numbness. As the deadline for the book got ever closer, I began to work even longer hours as I was spending more time working on the book. So now my sleep and recovery time was being reduced, so any damage to the discs wasn't being given adequate time to heal. So now not only was I probably causing more damage to the discs, but they had even less time to heal. All this was going on whilst I had absolutely no idea, as there were no symptoms at this stage. Another reason for the damage to the discs was undoubtedly the Bikram yoga classes. As much as I enjoyed the Bikram yoga classes and definitely felt the benefits of them, during the classes I did feel what I later described to a fellow classmate as my discs feel like they're popping out during the side bending pose. If you're not familiar with Bikram yoga, the classes are set in a studio where the temperature is set to around 41 degrees Celsius, so it's a very hot environment in which to exercise. The logic behind it is that as your body heats up, the tissues become more viscous and therefore stretch further, and you're able to increase your range of motion. The problem with this is that it can also allow you to move further than is ideal or safe for your body. In addition, the instructors in these classes are always encouraging you to force yourself to move further and further into the movements, assuming that moving further equals a better outcome. I do remember seeing another lady in class who was always complaining of back pain, yet there was no instruction from the teacher on how she should adjust the exercises so as not to make her pain worse. I could see in class that certain movements were hurting her, yet she just tried to soldier through. After a short while, I never saw that lady again. For me, the extreme side bending was the time it felt like my discs were popping out, but I have no doubt that the extreme forward bending and rotation of the spine during the classes would have also been creating micro-trauma to the discs as well. It's also possible that 2 days before the onset of my back pain and the shooting pains and numbness in my leg, I performed heavy deadlifts in the gym. When performing deadlifts, particularly heavy deadlifts, you often posteriorly rotate the pelvis to tighten the sacroiliac and sacrotuberous ligaments to help stabilize the sacroiliac joint and pelvis. The posterior rotation of the pelvis also flattens the lumbar spine, which, like sitting with a slumped posture, increases the compression of the discs, pushing the nucleus of the disc posteriorly, and can cause trauma to the annulus fibrosus of the discs, causing disc bulges or worse, a herniation. Add the weight of the bar and the bending forward of the trunk, plus the rounded lower back posture, and this can place a huge amount of compression and therefore trauma to the disc. I believe this was merely the straw that broke the camel's back.